Welcome to the Killer Boobies podcast, unraveling breast implant illness. Here's your hosts, Wendy Bunnell, Leslie Smoot, and Brandy Vega.
Hey everyone, I'm thrilled to introduce you to our guest today. This is Blake McCoy, and his wife Candy had breast implants, and we'll tell about her story. And it had a significant impact on their family. We wanted to hear from Blake to find out his perspective. Blake, you are a loving husband and you are a father of two awesome young boys, ages 5 and 9. But welcome to our podcast. We're thrilled to have you today.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I hope to be of some help.
You're the first time I've talked to a husband about what it's like to be married to someone with breast implant illness and what the journey was like from a husband's perspective. So
yeah, if I had to sum it up in one word, I would say hell, if I'm allowed to say that. But if not, you can cut that part out. So realistically, since I've met Candy, so we in less than a month from now is our 14-year wedding anniversary, and we dated a year and a half before that. So we have been together nearly 16 years. We started dating and got married young. Since I've known her, and I knew about her medical history with the car accident and some other things, but since I've known her, what I noticed is we're getting older, but we're still in our 30s. She's a little bit younger than me, but I noticed that her health, there's all these different things that started happening. And, of course it's concerning because even before we had the boys, her and I, she is my best friend. So you don't want your spouse to be sick or have health conditions. But then when you're, your best friends and you start to see their health decline and all of these symptoms that have gone along with that, quite frankly, it's frightening. That's the best way I can put it. I'm a big guy, as we were talking about earlier, but it's one of the things that scared me the most is seeing her health decline. And for all those years, we didn't know why. We just knew she was getting sick.
A lot of questions, but no real answers.
Yeah. So before I met her recently, she was, and it kind of relates, she was in a car accident. And for over the course of years, and I will back up, everything kept getting blamed on her car accident. That was the go-to, no matter what it was. Oh, it had to be from your car accident, which never really made any sense.
Did you have implants before the car accident then?
So if I remember, and this was before I met her, so if I remember correctly, she has Poland syndrome. And so she had an implant put in. It was one on the right side, which was done to, it was recommended that to kind of balance her, I guess, herself out aesthetically.
Yeah, because in Poland syndrome, in case somebody doesn't know, the development of both breasts is uneven. They don't develop at the same rate. In fact, one breast might not develop at all. And so it depends on to what degree the woman has the Poland syndrome. But in any event, it's going to be asymmetrical. And you wouldn't know it until you became a teenager and you started developing. And then one breast is going to develop at a different rate than the other. That's a pretty layman's term. But just to give you an idea, so you're saying your wife had Poland syndrome and was asymmetrical and then got implants before you had even met her.
Yeah, and actually it was just one. It was just one implant on the right-hand side. And then it was, chronologically, it was, I believe, less than a year or about a year from when she had the car accident. And then we met about a year and a half after her car accident. So that's kind of when I came into the picture. Yeah. So when we met, she had previously been a cross-country runner and really healthy and eats right and takes care of herself. And we were younger too. So at that point when we met, these weren't issues because everything once again was like, oh, okay, she was in a car accident previously, you know, and there's going to be some things that she'll have to work on, and she did. She got back into running and taking care of her health and things like that.
Yeah, great.
Then is over the course of time is when, you know, she started noticing and I started noticing the constantly going to the doctor. I mean, there were times where she would run a fever for literally 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And you know something's wrong. And, you know, she had just from things going on, and I forget what the terminology with like cramping in the hands and the feet, and not being able to sleep. And I mean, just a list, and things just kept getting worse. And she's always eaten very well, but she also said, you know, no matter how much I work out, no matter how much I run and eat well, she kept gaining weight, which was very abnormal, and it was no fault of her own.
I think that can be frustrating on two parts. That's, of course, very frustrating for the individual. I felt the same way. No matter how much I would try to take care of my body, it wouldn't respond. And when my husband would take care of his body, it would respond instantly. And I was like, this doesn't even make sense. I was like the cleanest eater on the planet, and yet I was suffering greatly. But I want to know from a man's perspective, how is that? Because I know men like to be able to solve the problems and fix things. And here's the person that you love the most, that you're the closest to. And how did you feel?
So honestly, kind of like a failure. We had this conversation yesterday. So with me, I've kind of always, and Candy is a problem solver. She just takes care of it. And I'm that same way too. You know, that's part of my personality, whether it's business, personal, with her, the kids, everything. If I identify that there's a problem, I will do everything in my ability to make sure that that problem is solved. However, this was far above my knowledge. And so, so for me, you know, it was really on top of being frightening, but I saw her frustration. And that's something that I would never say that I could fully understand a woman's perspective, of course. So I don't want to even pretend that I could. But seeing her go through those changes and how hard she tried, it made me, you know, really want to do something. And, you know, from a doctor perspective, I got frustrated with some of the care I thought she was getting. And still to this day, you know, there's some that I feel like have done a much better job than others. I felt like some were too quick to try to say, oh, well, you know, it's a car accident, or let us prescribe you some kind of antibiotic or something. And we knew that the problem was bigger. So it has been very frustrating. Not that I could ever, be able to rationalize her frustration, but from a husband and a best friend perspective, I mean, it's exhausting. Honestly, it's hard to come up with words to describe that feeling of constantly not being able to take care of her.
Yeah. And I think part of the exhaustion comes from trying so many different things, seeing so many different doctors, getting different opinions, and then following through on the protocol, and then not having any positive results from that is exhausting. Because you know, a lot of times women who have gone through this say, you know, I knew it was a chronic inflammatory response, but everything I did to reduce inflammation didn't actually reduce my inflammation. So what,
Right.
you know, why? And that question, why, when it's, you have to constantly ask it, it's exhausting and deflating and discouraging. So did you guys cycle through those emotions too, or?
Oh yeah. I can't tell how many nights that of course, that she didn't sleep, but all the conversations that we've had, all the medical opinions that she has had, all the doctor visits. And this is all before we had kids.
Hmm.
So now there's a different perspective after having children that ties in as well. But yeah, I mean, it was conversation with friends, with family members, with, you know, people that I know in the medical field. And there was basically, there was just no answer other than keep trying this or that. But it was basically just an endless circle of getting nowhere.
Did any doctors ever say, "Oh, do you have breast implants?" Was that ever on anyone's radar? Did it ever come up?
I mean, I know, you know, and she obviously knows the specifics more on this. I do believe that she reached out to not only the physician that did the procedure, but even another one.
Mhm.
And if I remember correctly, the answer to her is you're when she brought that question up,
Mhm.
she was told, you're too young to make this decision. You're too young to have it taken out, and they are safe. You know, I mean, I would call that an opinion. Now with where we are, to me, this is my personal opinion, that seems lazy. I mean, you know, that's from a problem solving guy.
Right.
I don't see that they really tried to sit down and figure out, could there be a bigger picture that we're missing, and what is linking some of these issues together. It was more of, hey, we want to pass you off to somebody else.
Right.
Still not very, I guess, enthused about how she was treated previously.
Yeah, I think a lot of women have faced that where they've gone back to their doctor and asked a question. But I'll tell you, it's not just the doctors. I remember within a year after I got my implants, I was trying to do a detox. I couldn't do it. It caused me to just vomit next to the toilet. I mean, it made me super, super sick to try to detox. This is from someone who would detox regularly because I was a health coach and into the world of health and wellness, and that was part of my annual routine. So I asked a girlfriend who was also into health and wellness and also had breast implants, and I said, "Gosh, do you think my breast implants are what's making me so sick?" And we both determined that it was probably the anesthesia and that I was still detoxing anesthesia. And my point is, even those of us in the health and wellness industry that we're really careful about products and trying to be clean. You know, I was the girl who was avoiding food coloring and still put breast implants in my body and didn't think it made me sick, right? So I think as a culture overall, we just easily accepted the response, which was, no, it couldn't possibly be that. You know, it's benign.
Right.
That object you stuck inside of you was benign, you know, and I remember sitting there with my girlfriend going, yeah, it's probably not the implant. It's maybe anesthesia or, you know, some of the other medications that I took after surgery for pain control, you know, and I put it all in that, just like your wife put all of her illness onto the car accident. I also had my appendix removed. So it was easy to say all the digestive issues were related to the appendix problem. So the irony is, if I had pulled open my implant booklet a year later when I was talking to my girlfriend about it, I actually would have recognized some of those problems that were actually posted in the booklet, but I had never done that. Did your wife have any information that would have helped her figure out that it was an implant? I just wonder.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and when it was done, that was, you know, pre-me, prior before my coming into the picture. You know, I don't, and when it was done, she was also a minor too. So I don't know how much of that information, if any, was really given to her. And when she did try to bring up those questions, she was shut down
Yeah.
quickly. You know, I've been to these doctor's appointments. I've been to places all over the state, and I've heard it myself. It was always, oh no, it's just about the car accident, or oh, you just have a weak immune system, and I'm like, if somebody's running a fever, 10 times a year, and sometimes that fever lasts up to 30 days, and your feet, what I would call, are peeling off, and they're always cold. You're not sleeping. You're having extremity issues. You're having issues with keeping weight off, even though you're doing everything right. I know a lot of people that have been in car accidents. We all do.
Right.
That doesn't line up anywhere at all. So, I think that one of the biggest issues is that there's not enough information out there, and there's not enough studies, and it's not made more readily available for women to be able to make an educated decision.
And you know what, maybe through all of this, as breast implant illness becomes more commonly known, maybe we will start coming up with better questions like, what kinds of studies have been done, and what were the outcomes of those studies, and what is the anecdotal research? Because that's important. We can't ignore the anecdotal research, which is people's personal experiences. Sometimes we put too much weight on a study, and we don't listen enough to the people who are telling their own personal experience, right? And so maybe we need to, through all this, come up with better questions. And hopefully through discussions like this, the people that are considering breast implants will get this knowledge and this information and hesitate before they just pull the trigger and do something without a whole lot of thought. And it's really got to be rough for someone with Poland syndrome, because I don't know that they have another option, right? But I also think that some of the shifts can also change in our society where we just accept ourselves, flaws and all.
Right.
And,
I agree with that one. And that's coming from a larger guy. Like we always have it's always portrayed as, we all need to look a certain way or act a certain way. And really, I think we all just need to be us and treat each other fairly and be kind to each other. That's more important than how do we look?
Mm-hmm.
Are we living up to expectations of what is being portrayed?
Yeah, the need to be perfect. There's kind of a perfectionism thing. We need to be perfect and look perfect, and only present our glossy selves, our shiny selves, our best self, whatever. And yet the spirit shines through the person. So you mentioned that it shifted even when you started having children. So in what ways did things shift?
So our first son, Kyan, which is 9 now, he was born with neutropenia.
And what is that?
Basically, when he was born, I believe it's the white blood cells. He was unable to fight off infections. So he was very sick. He was, we were at Children's Hospital a couple of times. He did, I don't want to say cure himself, but we were at Children's Hospital, and he grew out of neutropenia. So as far as that part of it, his immune system boosted back up. That was something that we've never seen on any side of our family history. There were no logical explanation as to why he had neutropenia. But for him, it was much more difficult than just neutropenia, because he is also hearing impaired as well.
Oh.
So he is deaf in his right ear. And, once again, I have no medical degree, but reading some of the signs and symptoms and some other associated, I guess you could say, side effects or problems, neutropenia is something that has popped up. That's something that we've read and seen, that there can be a link there. Now our youngest son, neither one.
Wow, great.
No hearing issues, no neutropenia. He has bright red hair, so that to him, that's like the best thing in the world. Everybody loves his hair.
So cute.
That's like his thing. But yeah, our oldest, and we were asking that too, is like, okay, why? how did this happen? Why was he born this way? How did he get neutropenia? And it wasn't exactly explained. It was more at the time, we just want to make sure he's healthy.
Well, see, and that's again more questions that we want to know from the breast implant illness community is, have there ever been studies with women who have had babies after implants? And are any of these babies experiencing autoimmune problems or other health issues that could possibly be related to the chemicals sitting in the woman's body, which are right next to lymph nodes and circulates through the whole system, right? And those are good questions to be asking to find out, because if a teenager wants to get implants but realizes that there might be a risk to an unborn child, she might pause and
Right.
think a little harder. And an adult parent might not sign that consent form to have their child have surgery. There's just a lot that could come from it. So I know that your wife actually had the Allergan implants. And what I'm wondering is, did she experience cancer because the Allergan was recalled because it could possibly cause cancer? So did that happen in her situation?
And that might be more of a her question on some of that, but I don't believe that she had a cancer diagnosis. There were certainly a whole list of other issues. And of course, now it's been just over 1 year since her explant.
Yeah.
There were molar pregnancies and some other things that was even before him. Once again, that's another question of, like you said, hey, if I do go through with this procedure, are there any other unintended consequences or medical risk for an unborn child? I don't believe she had a cancer diagnosis, but there's a list a mile long of other symptoms that she experienced.
There's a long list of women in the breast implant illness groups that have a difficult time getting pregnant. And what I don't know is that the culture that we live in, are there a lot of other contributing factors? Or does a large part of it come because of the implants? And the reason this has become discussed in these breast implant illness groups is because when women get them out, these are the same women that have tried to get pregnant and have miscarriages. Once they get the implants out, a year later, they're having babies. And they're going back to their explant doctor saying, I'm pregnant and I think it's because of the implant removal. So there are doctors out there saying, hey, we've brought children into the world now because we've removed these implants. And I think it's kind of a heartwarming story. But it does at least raise awareness so that we can be asking more questions like, how does it affect your reproductive organs? That's an important thing for us to discuss.
And more case studies and more, asking more questions seems to be a way that would be able to answer some of those questions. I mean, doing more research and having more data would only be able to help people make those decisions and really be able to see the pros and the cons, so they can weigh out those pros and cons to make an informed decision.
How did you guys start putting the pieces together to figure that perhaps it was related to the breast implants and that you should take action? How did that come about?
She had done some research, and there was she had seen a post online from what I would say like I believe it was a celebrity made post that had brought some awareness and shared her personal story of what she had gone through, and kind of put it out there for women to hear. And so she contacted a plastic surgeon in Nashville that I believe was very involved with the FDA and going through the data on this. And so the more they talked about it, when she called me, she said, we really have nothing to lose at this point, only anything to gain. And Candy said, let's schedule it. We're going to do this. And so we drove back to Nashville, and she had the procedure done on June 18th of 2019. And I will say, on the way home, I started noticing differences. I know that seems a little crazy.
Yeah.
But there were certain things that I have known my wife to not complain about. But like when we get in a car, I always turn the air down.
Yeah.
She was always like, it would be summer, like 95 degrees. We would be in Arizona and she would be wearing a hoodie. And I'm like, what's like, to me, you know, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt and like, oh my gosh, this is way too hot.
Yeah.
She's wearing a hoodie and she's wearing pants. I mean, we would go on vacations and all that. On the way home from that procedure, anytime we went somewhere in the car, she had a blanket. She would wear snowboarding socks in summer. It's crazy. And so we're on the way home from her, the day that she had the procedure done. And that was the first time in years she wasn't wearing socks. She didn't want the blanket that she had in the car. She had the air much closer to the temperature that I had it on. And at that moment, for me, I was like, okay. I was like, those are little things that I've noticed since we've been together that I was starting to already see a difference day one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started getting kind of excited.
Right. Yeah. So then how did it unfold after that?
Post-surgery, I started seeing what I would call like my new wife. It was a glimpse of what I really knew was her. You know, it was, we do a lot of whitewater rafting, we do hiking, and it got to the point before the surgery that she wasn't able to really do those things. She would, you know, constant fatigue, and she was not a lazy. It wasn't like she was using it as an excuse. She just physically couldn't do these things anymore. Mm-hmm. And our kids started noticing. They're like, why is mom tired? And, you know, mom can't play. And, you know, that I know from a mother's perspective, that had to be the toughest thing.
Yes.
And she pulled through. She's a trooper. Like, she worked really hard and kept pushing. And so even though we didn't jump out and start doing whitewater rafting, mm-hmm. I started seeing she wasn't running, you know, she didn't have these fevers all the time. Her feet weren't rotting off. She wasn't having the cramps in her hands. She was sleeping better. I mean, it was within a very short amount of time, she was like a new person. She started losing weight again. Like it was a whole new experience. And then for me, I'm like, okay, I need to get my tail in gear. I need to start eating better. I need to start working back out again, and I need to start getting more active. Yeah. So it was it was like flipping a switch. That's the best way I can describe it. It was oddly fascinating, but lived it firsthand.
Oh, that's so rewarding and such a good thing. And I know my husband feels the same way. And even last night we had one of his business partners over for dinner last night, and his business partner knows what I've gone through in this last year and had the surgery, etc. And he said, I want you to know your husband on a regular basis says how amazing your transformation has been over the course of this last 9 months, you know. And he was giving me that great feedback. And he was also asking me to confirm, because he goes, this is just such a miracle, you know, to be able to remove the object that was in your body and then have your body respond positively to it. That to me was a total miracle. I'm sure you feel the same way, because you're getting your wife back, and maybe even better because she's had them the whole time that you've known her.
Oh yeah. A matter of fact, you know, she put on her middle school cheerleading. She might kill me for saying that, but she can wear her middle school cheerleading. I guess that's a outfit or whatever that would be the terminology there. She's muscular. Like I'm gonna have to pick up the pace. I mean, she's lean. Another thing that I noticed is the swelling in her face drastically started reducing. Like, and that was very physically noticeable, that the swelling in her face and just her overall body looked different. And so now she's constantly improving, which is, yeah, I mean, of course, huge for me. Great for the kids. She can outlast a 5 and 9-year-old all day long. Now they're trying to keep up with mom. So it's
great.
It's been really, really awesome.
Yeah. I am so glad to hear that. I think that's really fun. Now I'm going to ask you a question that a lot of women get concerned about, because I know I was concerned about it. I know other women, I think especially your wife might have had a concern because of the Poland syndrome, because she would have gone from symmetrical, cute, perky looking boobs that were perfect because they were done by a plastic surgeon to this asymmetry again. What was that like for her? Was that hard for her? And was it hard for you to have her look different than what you had experienced your whole marriage?
So obviously it's going to be harder for her because June 17th, she looked one way. June 18th, she looked very different. Um, Now, and there was, as far as symmetry goes, and there's before and after pictures that, she's taken, even the day before to 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So for me, or for her specifically, I know that, just like with any of us, if your body's going to change that fast, that, in such a big way, I'm sure that's very emotional. I'd say that's very difficult. I wouldn't know, but I'll say that's very difficult to go through. Now, from my perspective, the only thing I gave her a hard time about is she had to buy a whole new wardrobe. And that wasn't necessarily bad for her either. But on a serious note, I think this is the best way I can say it. This is for any female having this thought, or any husband, especially to the husbands. I didn't care what she looked like as far as the size of her boobs or the size of her chest. I think she looks far better now than since the day I met her. And a big part of that is not only physically, but realistically, she's healthier, she's happier, she's able to do more with us as a family and with the boys. So there is no downside as far as what I'm concerned to me. I thought she was beautiful before. She's only improving. And the fact that she has smaller breasts now, I could care less. She's healthy and happy. And to me, I would, and I've said this to her a lot, so it's no secret, I wouldn't want to continue going down that road of just a certain way that she looked and constantly being sick. Because for me, I was getting concerned of, is this really going to change the future as far as her life expectancy? That has kept me up for years. I don't want to raise 2 boys by myself. I don't want to be alone.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your best friend in life.
No.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was being taken away from me and her, and we really weren't able to do anything. So now it's completely changed our viewpoint of a lot of different things. But physically, no, she looks amazing. And I think if anybody would think about it this way, would you rather have a larger chest and be sick, or would you rather have a smaller chest and be healthy and happy? And to me, that's a really simple path to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that spark in your eyes. It's the laugh. It's the giggle. It's the laugh. It's the spontaneity. It's the love of life. It's the passion for life that, at least for me, when I was sick, it was dimmed. It was like the light was on a dimmer switch, and it was just darkening more and more with every year. And then to be able to have that dimmer switch crank back up is actually fun. And it's fun to hear my kids say, Mom, you're actually funny, and I laugh a lot more, and we just have better bonding experiences because I'm not so overwhelmed with suffering. And so from a husband's perspective, it's really neat to hear you articulate some of those same things, like how important your health is and how important it is. I mean, we want to walk these journeys relationships, let's be honest, are the most important thing in our lifetime.
Absolutely.
It is. It's like the money can come and go. All of these weird experiences that we're having in life, we get through them together because of the relationships. And to have your partner back and to have that light in her eyes again and the spark in her eyes and to have that zest for life and to be able to participate fully in life, that is where all the value comes.
It really is, yeah, because you can't buy your health.
No.
I mean, she's worked really hard to have good health, and that's it's actually making me want to do better personally myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another added benefit, is not only does she look better, feel better, and we are enjoying life a lot more with each other and our kids, but it's also made me want to improve my personal health. Yeah. And to try to take better care of myself to, kind of keep up with her six-pack and her new body that she has. Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. I don't have a six-pack. I will not claim to have one.
I don't either. But, I used to, but it's been a minute since that's happened.
I'm proud of her for accomplishing that. And I'm proud of you for being able to tell her how much you love her regardless of how her breasts look. It's weird that women are so connected to the look of our bodies, but we really are. And breasts are an important part of that, especially because it's your sexuality. And it's it's a part of our body that, let's be honest, women use their breasts to be attractive. And, we like wearing the bikinis and the low cuts, and we want to have sex appeal for our spouse. And so there's a lot of insecurities when it comes to changing the breasts and having them not look as what we would, or what our culture would call sexy. And, I pray constantly and talk to my daughters that they will just love themselves the way they are. They couldn't be different. I have two girls. One is heavily endowed with large breasts. The other has nothing. Okay, she has small ones. And I say to them both, because they actually both complain, and I say to them both, love yourself the way you are. And I promise when you fall in love, your husband will love you the way you are.
I think you're right. I mean, it's too much about how people look now and trying to keep up with a certain type of body type, or really just be happy. Body types change, but that personality, the spirit, and the sense of adventure, that's something that you can live with and grow old with somebody with. Mm-hmm. Because physically, we are all going to change as we age. That's going to happen. True. So I think we just need to not have as much emphasis on that and put more emphasis on the inner being and everything that puts out.
Oh, applause, applause, applause. Well said. Well said. I want to ask you another question about this whole thing between spouses and the journey and the difficult times. I know when there were times for me, I got real quiet and I did not want to tell my husband how bad it was because I got tired of being sick and tired of complaining and tired of always saying, I can't, I'm not up for it, I don't feel like it, I need to rest. Or I had a migraine and a bazillion complaints. The list was long. Do you think that Candy was also trying to hide and conceal things from you?
Oh, hands down. So that's one of the things I've always liked about her. My grandmother said best, dynamite comes in small packages. And that my grandmother's 4'9", and Candy's not much taller. So I know that that's her personality. If there's a problem, she wants to solve it. She doesn't want to complain. She doesn't want people to worry. She just wants to take care of it, and then that's it. Mm-hmm. While I commend her, you, and every other woman for doing that, what I would say is, in my opinion, don't do that. Don't carry all that stress on yourself. Just, and once again, I can't fully understand the scenario, but I think sometimes it's better just to talk about it and get it out there. Yeah. So you can try to make a plan together, because even though she hid a lot of it very well, and I'm sure there's a lot that I would not know about, I'm not blind. I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
I could see what was happening no matter how well she tried to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
So once we did start talking about it, I'm like, just be open with me, because that way we can try to tackle this thing together. I didn't want her to feel like she was alone. I mean, and she shouldn't feel that way. So I know it's probably harder to do, but you know, put some of that, take some of that off of your shoulders and put on your partner, or your spouse, or
Yeah.
your friend even.
Yeah, and I think that's important because when you're in the thick of it, you literally cannot see the forest for the trees. And to be able to articulate what's going on and hear another person's perspective, they can see it from the outside and they can probably give feedback from the outside. You know, I know my husband would say a lot, you're the healthiest sick person I know. I've never seen anyone so strict and still go downhill. And when he would articulate those things, it would resonate in my ears, and I would say, yeah, we need to get to the root problem. Obviously haven't got to the root problem, and it was helpful. And so it is helpful to have a sounding board, and it's also very beautiful to have a place to go where you can just put your head on someone's shoulder and cry.
Yeah, we all need that. I mean, I go to her for advice all the time.
Mm-hmm.
She's my sounding board. She doesn't complain either, and I probably would at this point, but I think we all need that. And when you're going through something this difficult that impacts you physically, mentally, emotionally, and your health, that's a tremendous burden to carry and to keep on your shoulders. And I just don't think people should go through that alone.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and I hope that, like you said, with men like you talking about it and raising awareness, hopefully you would be willing to talk to your friends about it if their wife had implants, to ask the question,
Right.
has she ever considered that it could be her implants if she was having problems? Because other men are now bringing this information to their wives that are ill and saying, hey, guess what? I'm hearing about this. And I'm really grateful for people like you that are out talking about it and helping people understand, you know, what could go wrong. I think the best part of our conversation today, Blake, was to hear that you noticed some changes immediately. I say that that's the best part because it is the biggest sigh of relief to have your body respond and get your health
Right.
back. I have shed many a happy tears over that regained health. And that is the biggest reason why I'm spending the time today to let other women know that yes, you can get your health back, and it's an absolute miracle. And if that didn't happen, I'd be real quiet about it, but it's happened, and it happens to a lot of other women. And you confirmed it today with your own wife's experience. So thank
Yep.
you.
She's still shedding those tears of excitement, and I have to say, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I believe in this 100% because there's so many people that need to hear this message. And if whether they know about it or whether it's in the back of their mind, or if they're trying to even, get that consultation and have that discussion, I think what you're doing is amazing. So I support it 100%. People need information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm going to give you the final thought. Do you have a final thought you want to share, spread to women or to husbands of women that have been sick, or to significant others? Any final thoughts as we close up this conversation?
Yep. So, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. My final thought is whether if you are a woman and you are doubting having the device taken out, and your concern is how you're going to physically look, don't doubt that. Take care of your body, take care of your health. If you are a husband or a best friend or a partner and you are seeing some signs or some symptoms, bring that up. Don't be afraid to talk about it. I would just, the biggest thing for me that I get fired up about is start having those conversations and I said to my wife the other day, and it may not go over that well, but I said, if there is a husband out there that does not support their wife having an explant, find a new husband. That may be a little too much.
Oh.
But you know what? It just goes back to, in all seriousness, you've got to take care of you. And especially if you're a mother to your children, don't let that take away from the kids.
Yeah.
They need moms. Kids love their moms. Moms are fun. So, my final thought is have conversations. Don't be afraid. Talk to somebody about it, and don't feel like you're alone, because obviously what you're doing, women are not alone.
Yeah.
So have those conversations and take care of yourself. Put your health first, because that's what you need to do.
That's beautiful, Blake. That is beautiful. Well said. So well articulated. And what a great way to sign off. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Same here. Thank you for having me on. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for listening. Spread the word by subscribing, liking, and sharing the Killer Boobies podcast today. You could be the person who helps someone reverse their pain and suffering and reclaim their health today.